Hello, cats and kittens. Orewa Jose Yoroshko, and I'm back in the Crisis Corner with another recommendation. This video is a follow up to my previous recommendation of Mrs. Scarlet and the Duke, based on my continued foray into improving my craftsmanship, specifically in writing slow burn romance. Anyway, so it sounds weird, but because I'm writing a superhero action joint with beatdowns and so forth. But stay with me. I picked up Mrs. Scarlet and the Duke on the recommendation of Kate Abbey's podcast, which I also recommend for those who are aspiring writers. Those two ladies are pretty good. They give a lot of helpful hints. One of their hints was check out Miss Scarlet and the Duke, and the recommendation for this episode or this video is all creatures great and small. Now, it comes with a bit of a caveat. If you're into, big time action, manga, anime, shonen type stuff with beatdowns and jutsus and so forth, this ain't for the Jujutsu Kaisen crowd. Maybe not necessarily. Or if you are splitting your time between Jujutsu Kaisen and Downton Abbey, just be warned. You know what you're getting into. It's a slow. Not just the slow burn romance. I mean, it's just slow, period. It is relationship based, and that's pretty much it. You're not going to get with Scarlet and the Duke. You had crimes, mysteries, blah, 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 so forth. The underbelly of London, blah, blah, blah. Here you got cows, cats, dogs, cows, horses, cows, cats, whatever. What is All Creatures Great and Small? Specifically, it is a television series produced by Playground Entertainment for UK, United Kingdom, BBC in the United States. And the show is set in Northern England, starting in 1937. Based on a series of books about the Yorkshire veterinary surgeon, written under the pen name of James Herriot, who is the main character in the series. So that's what is All Creatures Great and Small. The actual story. The show revolves around a trio of veterinarians, veterinary surgeons specifically, working in the Yorkshire Dales during 1937. You have Siegfried Farnan, who's described as an eccentric. He's running a solo practice at the beginning of the story, and he hires James Herriot, who's the main character of the series. You could think of him as the Robin to Siegfried's Batman. Not that there's going to be any beatdowns or anything. I'm just using that as a, for instance. Anyway, you have Siegfried Farnan and James Herriot. They're running a veterinary practice. Siegfried hires James into his veterinary practice almost against his better judgment, because he was happy having his solo practice and just muddling along as he was going. But he does hire James in, and that's the initiating action of the story that gets everything going. You also have what you would call, if we continue with the Batman, metaphor, the Alfred, Siegfried's Batman, which would be Mrs. Hall. She is the dead mother that pretty much keeps the whole crew together. And add to that, you have Siegfried Farnan's younger brother, who is a devout, good-for-nothing layabout, who also gets added into the story and into the veterinary practice. So the story basically revolves around these three veterinarians, the housekeeper, and the love interest of James would be Helen. We'll get to her in a moment. So the first episode has James leaving Glasgow to get replying to a offer from Siegfried to join his practice as an assistant. So he's leaving his hometown, venturing out into the world, leaving his family behind, and it's his journey of discovery, going out to strike his fortune and make a name for himself and all of that good stuff. So he's leaving out and he's going to practice with Siegfried. The interesting thing is Siegfried, kind of realizing that he didn't really want an assistant, tries his best to brush James off, get rid of him by giving him all these hard assignments and trying to make his life miserable so that he would leave of his own volition. But James, being the forthright do-gooder that he is, sticks it out and proves himself useful to Siegfried and eventually gets hired on. So he, in that first episode, then the first two episodes, he really proves his worth to Siegfried and gets hired on as a full-time assistant in the veterinary practice. It's a little bit into the first season where we first run into Tristan, with Siegfried's younger brother, who he is desperately trying to whip into shape. He's been a devout layabout for maybe his whole life. He's bumming around, not really making anything of himself, and Siegfried is being the older brother who basically raised Tristan. I guess in the absence of their father. I guess their father died early. I can't remember exactly, but he basically claims him more as a son than a younger brother almost, and he's constantly through the first season trying to beat him into shape and get him to join into the veterinary practice so that he can at least make something of himself. Now, Siegfried is very demanding of his brother, and it's harsh in a sense, but it's tough love, you could say. He does his best to try to shake his brother out of his complacency and get him to amount to something in his life. So there's that relationship. Most importantly, we run into Alderson. Helen Alderson, who is she's a farmer's daughter who lives in the town that James moves. She becomes his love interest as they interact on and off through that first season. And it is a slow burn in the sense that they meet. Their meet cute is actually takes place in the first episode, and you wouldn't even notice it. You just meet her coming off of a bus when he first arrives to going into the practice to meet Siegfried, and you wouldn't even notice it until deep into the first episode or maybe the second. I can't remember which, but it's like an afterthought. It's a good meet cute. It's cool. And from there, eventually builds the romantic entanglement of the series. And as opposed to Mrs. Scarlet and the Duke, where you have a relationship, friends to not even friend, they're friends. I haven't finished the series. I'm caught up on the series as far as what I've seen on Amazon, but it's childhood friends to lovers, I suppose. You haven't got there yet, but it's very slow burn. But you can see the attraction. With these two, it's a little bit more immediate. I'm into the second season. I'm just about to finish the second season of All Creatures Great and Small, and the romantic entanglements are, all hindrances to their romance have been set aside. They've been rudely dismissed in the most horrific manner that you could imagine, in my estimation. Dude was dispatched with the quickness, so there's no impediment to their romance at this point. But that's not a problem. It's just a fact of the series. Man was dispatched with the quickness and is over. So they are a couple. Everything's cool. Now we get into a separate aspect of the series, which I think the war, the impending World War II's effect on their area is about, I don't know if it's going to be the Blitz or whatever, but World War II is looming. It's about to have an effect on the area. Will James get called into service? Will they get hit by the Blitz? I don't know. I'm on the last episode of season 2. So all of the romantic entanglements and all of that is done. It's set. They are a couple. They are to be wed, blah, 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 whatever, which is fine. The process of them getting together was informative to me, the same as the slower process of Scarlett and the Duke coming together was informative to me. So I've got what it is that I want out of the series so far. Now it's just an issue of the storylines resolving themselves. Now, as I say, this series is about relationships, and while the romance is not necessarily slow burn, the pace of the story, it's a slice of life story, and as I said, it is slow. It is about veterinarians, so can't expect you go into it knowing what it is. You know, it's a lot of cows, horses, cats, veterinary cases. You know, cows giving birth, horses giving birth, dogs getting their teeth pulled, whatever. Whatever you expect a veterinarian to do up in northern England is what's going to happen. So if you can deal with that, that's fine. Good for you. I can deal with it. I'm learning to deal with it because I'm more action oriented. I'm more jutsus and that kind of thing and superheroes and blah 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 or the Matrix or whatever. So this is a bit of a change of pace as to what I'm used to, but I can deal with it because the story is very, very well crafted. The relationships that are relative to the series are well done. You got the relationship between James and Helen, obvious, okay? But you also have the relationship between Siegfried and James as a mentor and mentoree, or however you put that. You have the relationship between Siegfried and his younger brother. Again, trying to whip him into shape. You have how Mrs. Hall interacts with James, Siegfried, and Tristan, and Helen for that matter. There are a lot of relationships within the series that are really well crafted, well done, and meaningful. So I really appreciate that aspect of how the story comes together. Aside from that, you also have feel of the series, the visuals, the set pieces. It's immersive. Everything takes you to that period of time. It feels like 1937 Northern England. It does. It takes you to another place because everything is well crafted. The cars, the clothing, the wardrobe, fantastic. I mean, if you appreciate wardrobe, you really, really appreciate the look of the characters in the series. Fantastic. Again, the set pieces, the pubs, the streets, the cars, the cinematography, the shots of the hillsides and the farms and the roads. Everything is very well done. It's very immersive and it takes you to that place. So there's that. It is a well crafted piece of work, a endearing piece of work, I would say. It's heart wrenching at times, and it's a recommendation. All creatures, great and small, but you have to be ready for the pace and the lack of jutsu. Outside of that, knock yourself out. It's a great piece of work. Like I say, I'm ending season 2. I'm on the last, every season is about 7 episodes, and they have a special episode at the end of each season. Usually as a holiday episode. So if you're into that too, there's that. But it is a recommendation, and I'm looking forward to finishing off the series, however long it takes. I got my coffee ready. I'm wide awake, and I'm sticking it out. So there's that. That's for the Downton Abbey crowd. If you into that or whatever, get on board. All creatures, great and small. That's it from the Crisis Corner. Let me know if you like the series, if you are already watching it, if you intend to watch it, or if you have no intentions of watching it. Let me know. Until next time, stay tuned.